That's what you say, right?
Yeah, I don't know when everybody's ready. You
Good?
guys ready?
Good afternoon. My name is Daniel Miller with Miller Stern Lawyers, and along with my law partner Kevin Stern, we have had the honor of representing for the last 10 months the families of Paul Buttram, Kelsey Sadler, Kenneth Lacayo, and John McMaster. As of this morning, we provided notice of the potential for a personal injury claim against the Mayor, Brandon Scott, and the City Council of Baltimore City, the State of Maryland, Baltimore City Fire Department, the Housing Authority of Baltimore City, Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development, and the former Chief of Baltimore City Fire Department, Niles Ford. Paul Buttram, Kelsey Sadler, Kenneth Lacayo, and John McMaster were all active duty firefighters who paid the ultimate sacrifice as well as sustained life-threatening injuries on January 24th, 2022, when they responded to a vacant house fire on 205 South Stricker Street in Baltimore, where we are standing today. As a direct result of the actions and omissions of Baltimore City and the State of Maryland, by failing to demolish the condemned property located 205 South Stricker Street prior to January 24th, 2022, among many other things, there was a collapse that resulted in the loss of lives and injuries to others. The investigation is presently open and ongoing. There are many allegations involving the wrongful deaths of these firefighters and the injuries against the Mayor and City Council of Baltimore City and the State of Maryland for, among other things, claims of negligence in the failure to demolish and/or adequately secure and maintain safely the vacant property of 205 South Stricker Street, and intentionally mismanagement of money, misappropriation of money, and violations of these firefighters' civil rights and constitutional protections, cancellation of the Code X-ray program, failure of the mobile data terminal, failure of the computer-aided dispatch program, among many other claims. The loss of life and the injuries that occurred on January 24th, 2022 could have and should have been prevented. This was a devastating occurrence that should never happen again. As a direct and proximate result of the City of Baltimore and the State of Maryland's negligence, Mr. McMaster and the families of Kelsey Sadler, Kenneth Lacayo, and Paul Buttram have suffered and will continue to suffer emotional anguish and the loss and the companionship of their loved ones, financial support, and many, many other losses. This is about more than money. This is about change, a change that is required at the highest levels of Baltimore City and the State of Maryland and our elected officials.
Kenny Lacayo, Paul Buttram, Kelsey Sadler, John McMaster walked into a death trap in January of this year. This is something that should never have occurred. This is something that should have, it could have been prevented. And more importantly, the city had the resources and programs available to protect our public servants from this very thing from happening. It didn't. They didn't, and we have to do more, not just for these families behind us, but moving forward. Our firefighters serve us every day, and it's our responsibility to make sure that we do what's necessary to protect them. The facts alone go back to 2015, 2016. This wasn't the first time there was a fire in this vacant property. It wasn't the first time that firefighters had been injured in this property. Everyone en route to that scene had no idea at that time what they were walking into. Strategies can be employed when you know what you're walking into. It did not occur here. And it's not just about us. I would like to invite any members of the family, anybody who would like to say anything.
Like Kevin was saying, we want to affect change. We want our firefighters to be safer. And again, this house should never have been standing. There's public records showing that it should have been demolished years ago. Firefighters were injured here before, and we're going to keep fighting for change so that people are safe. My name's Lacey Marino, Laceymarino. Kelsey was my sister.
If there's any questions at this time, I'm more than happy to answer them.
I'd love to hear from one of the family members about how this will help in your healing process.
Totally up to you.
Watch out, kid. Let me handle this one. Can you ask it again?
Yeah, how is this going to help you here? First of all, are you, which victim are you related
I'm the husband of Kelsey.
And what is your name?
Brandon.
Tell us how this will help you in this healing process.
I don't know if anything will help. We're never going to get her back. Any of them. But it's going to save other families from having to deal with it later. Because it's never going to stop. These buildings are going to keep falling down. They're going to keep catching on fire. And nobody's going to know. And they're going to go in, and it's going to happen again. And again and again. And the city's not going to care. Again and again and again. And somebody else is going to be standing just like we are. That's about all I got.
So you hope it'll help in the future protect others.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Nobody should have to go through this. And it's miserable. And we live it every day, and I will live this every day for the rest of my life. And I don't want anybody else to have to deal with this. Or their children. Anybody. So something's got to change. You know? And it's got to start now. So this doesn't keep happening.
You guys have been investigating for months. Talk specifically about some of the changes that you would like to see that would help.
That's all you.
No X-ray. What are some of the specific changes? Like you said, I know it's not about the money.
No, I appreciate the question. There's so many different things that need to occur here, and we respect and understand it's going to take time. The Code X-ray program is a great start. That is something that was only around for 5 months in 2010. And, you know, there's concerns about whether it was for funding or unsightliness, whatever it was. That's a program that must be in place. The ability to have information en route via the CAD system is critical. They have to be able to know what they're walking into. That is also something that was available that should have been done, but it wasn't. And there's a whole host of things, some of which were listed in the line of duty report, pages upon pages of things that need to be done. And the most important thing, and unfortunately sometimes it requires legal action to have these things occur, they have to be put in place and they have to stick around. It's not something that can be done and then say, oh, we tried it, we're done. It has to stick.
Do you feel that this was a completely preventable tragedy?
This was absolutely preventable. And this is the problem, is that it takes legal action in order to get the city to move, to do anything. This is not the first time the city has understood what's going on. This is the only way that we can get the city to act. One of the biggest issues is the vacant properties, is the fact that these buildings are condemned and they're still standing, and there is money available from the state. Where is it going? What is going on? Why are these buildings still here? 205 South Stricker should be torn down, should have been torn down years ago, but it wasn't. None of this would have happened. We wouldn't be standing here if the city did what they're supposed to do. So if they're not going to do it on their own, they're going to do it through legal action. It's that simple.
Thinking in terms of damages, is there an actual financial amount?
Yeah. You know, and it's not something that I really want to discuss right now. Today is not about, you know, what amount is available in a lawsuit like this. Today is about accountability and the first step towards doing that, and about these families behind us that we have the honor and privilege to even know, and the fact that we're able to do what we're doing to protect firefighters going forward. That's what this is about.
Has it been officially filed yet, or when will it be officially filed?
So this morning, the notices went out to all the parties. That is a requirement in the statute. The rest will come in due time.
And any reaction, you mentioned that investigative report that came out last week, how will that help you as well as the resignation of the fire chief? Comments on that?
The information was extremely enlightening. There were a lot of things addressed within that report that were known, some of which was unknown. But as far as our process and investigation, it's extremely helpful. And it's a step towards accountability. It's a step towards change and making sure that things are in place that need to be in place. So it's all helpful. And there's still a whole lot of information that we haven't gotten yet that's forthcoming. But it's something that's critical as we continue to learn more about what happened and what should have been done.
My name's Kenneth Berman of the firm of Berman, Sobin & Gross, and we have handled the workers' compensation claims for each of these firefighters and their families. And I've been doing this representing firefighters for 40 years, and there's something that hasn't been said here today that I want to bring out. Knowing firefighters, having represented them, having eaten dinner with them, having broken bread, they understand the risks of what they do and that every day is dangerous. But the one thing that they ask, and what we're trying to do in this, is that their employer has to have their back. They need to know it's a dangerous job. It is basically they put their lives on the line. But to ask them to do that without the backing, whether it's a lack of equipment, whether it's a lack of training, whether it is not providing or living up to their own standards that the city put down, that for morale purposes, for safety purposes, and for everything else, it is an additional thing that we hope to remedy, and that firefighters from here on in will know that the city of Baltimore and the administration will do everything to make sure their job in a dangerous job can be as safe as it possibly can be.
The information in the investigative report that just came out, was that new information to you guys, or had you already kind of uncovered the same information during your investigation?
So I would say it's a little bit of both. It was very intense. It's a hard read. Any of you who have read it from cover to cover, it's a tear mover. I mean, it's a tear jerker. I couldn't sit more than 5 minutes without taking a break. So there's a lot of information in there that's extremely painful. There's a lot of information that's helpful, and there's information that's questionable. And I think that in general, it was information that is useful. But what I felt it was slightly lacking is transparency with the city. A lot of it talked about issues with the fire department, but very little talked about the city's responsibility and accountability.
In your notice, you named the mayor, the state, the city fire department, housing authority. Out of all of them, who do you blame the most for this, or is it equal blame across the board?
So that's a good question. I would say that there's equal blame for different things. I mean, you obviously can't blame a particular department or an individual for something that they have no responsibility or oversight over. So I think that there are so many pieces of this puzzle that are broken and have to be fixed that I believe there really isn't one particular individual or entity that is most culpable and most responsible. You really have to look at each individual failure and decide who is responsible for that. Additionally, as I said, this is still ongoing. The investigation is ongoing, and there's much that we don't know yet that I'm sure will come to light and may help answer that question as well.
How long do you all expect the litigation to take?
That's difficult to say. I'm not sure. There's so many variables that go into that, and a lot of can depend on our court system too. So there's a lot of things. I can't answer that one.
I think a lot of that also depends on whether the city and the state step up to the plate.
I would like to say that part of the report that stuck out to me was the members of the fire department of Baltimore City being unable to speak out on how they feel about the department. And we know people, we know the day-to-day workers that come here and sacrifice their lives, and we know that they have been told that they cannot speak to the press. So that just shows that the more you push for a report, and then the report comes out, but your members cannot speak on how they feel, on how they can improve this department. So we see you, we know a lot of people that do the day-to-day work, and we know the ins and outs of the day-to-day. Higher management saying that lower, the actual heroes that do the work cannot speak on how they feel, on what's going on. They cannot talk to the press. That's not the way that we're going to make this better, and we're going to avoid another death and another tragedy happening. And that's all I have to say.
Can you say your name?
Claire Fenelon. CLARAF as in Frank, E, N as in Nancy, ELON as in Nancy. I'm Kenneth's fiance, Kenneth Lacayo's fiance.
My name is Jason Plotkin. I'm also an attorney that represents injured workers, injured firefighters, but I come from a family of first responders in the Baltimore City Fire Department. I've seen what it's like to grow up when your family is going into these fires, is going to the unknown, the uncertainty, and not getting the support from the city of Baltimore. So I feel like this is really about accountability and to help prevent this from happening in the future. Thank you.
You know, these firefighters are heroes. First responders, they're the ones that protect all of us, every single person here, every official in the city and the state. These are our heroes. These are our supermen and superwomen. How can any of us allow this to continue? They have to be safe and protected on the street every day. And that is the most important. Not money, not bond ratings, not how much it costs to tear these buildings down. How much does it cost not to? That's life. That's the lives of our heroes, and it's unacceptable.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.